All right, welcome in. It's another edition of Koll's Corner here on YouTube 93.7 The Fan. It's where we talk to players, in this case, former executive front office members, coaches, whoever. We talk about specific moments in Pittsburgh sports that you remember. And so with this being draft week, of course, that's what everybody is talking about. We go out to a man who was formerly in the Steelers front office. I believe the official title for you, Mr. Doug Whaley, was Steelers Pro Personnel Coordinator.
That's it.
Former Bills GM, of course, current Director of Pro Personnel for the XFL, Doug Whaley. Doug, thanks for a few minutes. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you giving me some time to speak with you today. I know things are crazy since it's draft week and everybody's got their hair on fire to see what's going to happen tomorrow. But I got some time for you for sure.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So I want to talk to you specifically, Doug. This is a special year for the Steelers, we know, because, well, they're looking for a quarterback for the first time in 18 years. But you were a part of the front office that landed Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. So I want to talk to you specifically about that year and that moment. And so going back to 2003 for a second here. Coming off a 6-10 season, Tommy Maddox, the quarterback there, his magic kind of ran off at that point, really. And it was pretty obvious the Steelers were in need of a quarterback. So did you guys go into the draft knowing absolutely, no matter what, we are taking a quarterback in this draft, first round?
Well, like you said, when you look back at that roster, every piece of the puzzle was in place except the quarterback. And like you said, Tommy was serviceable, but we needed someone to take us consistently to where the Steeler standard is. And a lot of, I wouldn't say luck, but a lot of times people landing that quarterback is all about circumstances. So luckily for us, or the circumstances blended it to that 2004 draft having three quarterbacks as a possibility that everybody thought, well, most people thought would be worthy of possibly being a franchise quarterback. Obviously, the first one was Eli Manning, second one, Phillip Rivers, and then there was a thought process that Ben Roethlisberger out of Miami of Ohio had a chance to be, but that was still back in the day where MAC competition was starting to gain traction as a really competitive league, but still didn't know if you could get a quarterback out of that league. So that was the big question mark. So that's a long-winded answer to say we knew we needed one, but we felt very good about the circumstances of getting one in the 2004 draft. Unfortunately, because of the position we were drafting and looking at the teams ahead of us, we thought we would be able to get one of those three, well, actually two of the three, because we knew Eli was going to go number one.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned them, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. That 2004 draft, now that you look back on it in history, one of the most successful quarterback drafts in NFL history. It's now famous for it. So how did you guys have them ranked? I know that you just mentioned that MAC quarterbacks at that time, there was a lot of question marks. So was Ben number 3 on your list that you had him ranked coming into the draft?
Actually, so for us, we had it a little different. We had Eli 1, Ben 2, and Phillip 3. So we thought with Ben's physical nature, his potential, his upside, between his arm strength, his size, his mobility, and he was a proven winner. And I'll tell you, one of the stories we heard about him is, I think right before the MAC championship game, he was injured. He did not practice all week. And they said, well, we'll send him out during warmups before the game and see how he feels. He went out and warm up, came back to coach and says, I feel good. Ended up winning the game and having a spectacular game. So our thought process with where this guy is now, his innate drive to be a winner, his competitiveness, and his physical skills, we thought people would have him number 2, because if you remember Phillip Rivers with that funky release,
yep.
We thought people would downgrade him for that funky release. So we didn't feel that we had a shot at Roethlisberger, but we were very happy to say we're going to get a fiery, competitive just like Ben Roethlisberger, not as big, doesn't have the arm, but is a proven winner and has won at a Division I level when coming out of NC State. So we were sitting there, hey, we're good. We're good.
So what do you remember about Ben in particular? You mentioned, some of his play in Miami, but was there anything that stuck out to you guys about his personality when you would be around him or met with him pre-draft?
The confidence was there, but more importantly, the competitiveness. You could tell that this guy had a chip on his shoulder in a good way. He wasn't highly recruited. Coming out of high school, he didn't play quarterback until his last year, but he had that internal belief to say that you guys are sleeping on me, but I know what I can do. So that permeated. And that's when people, and I've said it and a lot of people will say it, when people talk about quarterbacks, the most successful quarterbacks have that it factor. When you say it factor, what is it? You know when you see it. It's the type of thing when someone walks in the room and doesn't say anything, but you feel that presence like, who is that? And he just exuded that. He had that. And he didn't have to talk a lot, but he had that, and I wouldn't say swagger, but he had that confidence. And he had that, yeah, I'm from Findlay, Ohio. I went to Miami, Ohio, but trust me, you're getting a good guy here that's going to take you to where you want to go.
Got the goods. Talking to Doug Whaley, former Steelers pro personnel coordinator, of course, was there in 2004 when the Steelers drafted Ben Roethlisberger in the first round. So, Doug, take me inside that Steelers war room. I feel like as fans, we always want to know what those conversations are like. What the atmosphere in that room is on draft day and what kind of conversations you guys have. So, as that first round was unfolding, what were some of those things? What were you guys thinking? What were the conversations along the way?
Well, if you remember, it was the Eli Manning saying, I'm not going to San Diego draft. Yeah. So we were all really caught up, just like all the fans were like, okay, how is this going to work? He's come out and said that I don't want to play for San Diego. It's the Manning, really the first family of football bucking the system of the NFL where Archie made his money. The Manning family was just put on a pedestal, and here they're coming in saying, well, thanks for putting us on a pedestal, but this system that has made our family really wealthy, we're basically saying we're not going to abide by it. So the drama was really surrounding that, and we were just sitting back like, whatever happens there, we know Ben's going second. And like I said, we were just looking at the teams ahead of us thinking none of these guys really need a quarterback, so we can sit pretty and we're going to get why am I thinking of anything? Rivers. We're going to get Rivers.
Yeah.
And the big question and debate was, all right, we know Rivers is a winner. Is his above average arm and unorthodox release going to hinder him at this level? But we felt very strongly, and I'll give it to Kevin Colbert. He was the main proponent for Phillip Rivers. He loved that guy. He says, I don't care how it gets out of his hands, as long as it gets to the place in an accurate way, who cares? It's ends justify the means. So again, we felt very comfortable. So there wasn't that much discussion. A lot of the discussion happened when we were setting our draft board. And again, it was just, is that delivery really too funky to be successful in the NFL? Once the draft unfolded, and then once at 4, when New York took Rivers, we were like, wait a minute, what? And we all looked around like, is somebody joking? And it was like, turn that other channel to make sure that this is right, because we couldn't believe. And it was one of those things where for a good 30 seconds, the whole room just went silent. And then it just erupted. Everyone's like, oh, we're going to get Ben, yes. So it was pure elation. But we still had the sweat because we didn't know anybody behind us was going to jump up and get him. But we felt very confident if we stayed put, we'd be able to get him.
That's awesome. So, Doug, there were reports that say that the Steelers wanted Shawn Andrews, the offensive tackle from Arkansas, but that Dan Rooney or somebody along the way stepped in and said, hey, no, we're taking Ben. Some reports I've seen, there's stories out there saying that he wanted to make up for missing out on Dan Marino back in 1983. And so he wanted to make up for that with the Ben pick. Is that how you saw it all go down? Are those, is there truth to any of that?
Those were probably the high level. If it did happen, well, I'll answer your question. I never saw those conversations. I never heard of that. When I was in conversations with the scouts, with Kevin, with Coach Cower at the time. So I wasn't privy to those conversations, not saying that when the top brass met with Dan Rooney, Art, Kevin, and Cower, they may have talked about that. But we never were aware of those conversations. And we always thought, if that guy's there, we're going to take him, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah. So once 11 came, Ben Roethlisberger was still there. It was instant turn in the
Yeah, because like I was telling you today, usually when you get on the clock, especially in the first round, you slow play. You give it a couple minutes, see if anybody's going to call you and wow you with an offer to trade down. But that was one draft where right after the pick was announced, we wrote the card. And it took us longer just to write his last name. That was the longest part about turning in the card, because you write it, you tell the person at the draft to repeat it back. So we had to triple check that. So that was but we had that card filled out before we were on the clock.
Yeah. So there's R-O, there's an E there before the T. Is that how you spell it out?
Yeah. So we double and triple check that. Like I said, so I think we had it in within probably 3 minutes, but 2 of those minutes was just making sure we had his last name spelled right. And I still don't think Cower can pronounce it.
Probably not, or spell it. Either one.
No, I can't even spell it.
You're right. So once you guys picked him, though, you felt pretty good about. I mean, this guy could be special.
So and I always talked about, and I was talking about it today, is the infrastructure. And when you have a quarterback, you have to have an infrastructure. Now, there are some guys that don't need that infrastructure, that can walk in day one and like Andrew Luck and just start performing. But with Ben, we knew he needed some growth, some maturation, and some tutelage. So what we had at the team, if you remember, we had a vet with Tommy Maddox that had been he was second round, played under John Elway in Denver, and had been in the XFL. So he had some pelts on the wall. He had some experience. So we bring this young guy in. Tommy, he was at the end of the road, but he knew it, but he would be able to show this guy how to play quarterback in the league. So we had at least a year, maybe 2 years of Ben learning. But while we're there, we had a number 1 rated defense and a punishing and number 1 or top 5 rushing attack. So we thought we would be able to go old school and run the ball, play good defense, and not turn the ball over, and have Tommy just manage those games. And our margin of error was slim, but we knew we'd be in just about every game and we'd have a chance.
Yeah.
That was the infrastructure. So we felt very good that we could compete while bringing this young quarterback along. Fast forward, that first year, Maddox hurts his, I think it was a spinal injury. He got concussion, hurts his spine at Tennessee. I remember I was on the road and I was sitting there watching because I did all the advance, and he was lying there motionless. And everybody was obviously concerned about that. And then we're like, I guess Ben's got to go in. So Ben goes in, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. That's for sure, Doug. And to wrap this all up, this whole conversation, one of the main reasons why I wanted to reach out to you to talk about this is because, well, here we are now in 2022, pretty similar infrastructure for what you're talking about as far as the defense is there. Might not be, the top defense in the league right now. Maybe they've got a little bit of room to grow, but the running game on the way up with a revamped offensive line, Najee Harris there as well. Do you see it being a very similar situation that if, per se, the Steelers were to land somebody like Malik Willis or a Desmond Ridder, would they have success in letting him sit and then see what happens from there?
I think it's a game plan that was successful before, and it looks like they're enacting it right now. And you can really see with what they did in free agency. And Kevin Colbert even said, we have 22 starters. So anybody that comes in from the draft, no matter what position, brings competition and depth, but it's not something where they're going to be anointed starter as soon as their names get called. So it's a blueprint that has proven success in the past. That's the foundational philosophy behind how the Steelers build a team. And I would not be surprised if they truly believe in one of these quarterbacks that they have them and follow that same blueprint to success.
Your official pick at number 20. I can't let you go without asking that.
My official pick at number 20, I said it. I think it's, what I want or what do I think?
We'll go both, actually.
What I want either Trent McDuffie or Kyler Gordon from Washington, a corner. What I think, if Willis is there, take Willis for all the reasons we just talked about.
All right, Doug Whaley, there he is, former Steelers pro personnel coordinator, former Bills GM, of course, now involved in the XFL, director of pro personnel, and you can hear him every Wednesday on the Fan Morning Show, 9 to 10. Doug, appreciate a few minutes to talk about this moment that you were part of that really shaped Steeler history, helped bring
no doubt about
championships here, and you were a part of it. That's something you can always say to your name, of course.
No doubt. I appreciate the time. Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug.
That's it.
Bye, man.